evening. Welcome to Cardiff City TV.
Wilson, a little bit of space for Harry Wilson. Strikes a goal. Oh, what a goal. Morrison, goal!
The South Wales Derby. Well, if there's one fixture that both sets of fans might deem to be the biggest fixture of the season, it could well be this one, and there's a lot to play for both teams this evening. It's the Liberty Stadium that will play host to tonight's game, where preparations are no doubt well underway for Cardiff City, who faced a Swansea side that are currently sitting in third position in the league. I'm Amy James, and I'm joined by John Donovan, and we shall be talking you through the build-up to kick off at 5:30. John, firstly, let's just talk about the slight blip in form for the Bluebirds as of recent times. There's a lot of pressure on them in that regards to perform, as well as the added pressure that obviously comes with a huge derby fixture. John, do you think they can pull it out the bag?
I'm hopeful, Amy. Nervous, always very, very nervous on Derby Day. You try and be impartial on these broadcasts as much as possible, but I think everyone wants to win today, particularly as we didn't do ourselves justice last time around in December. Look, the blip in form is 2 draws and a defeat, and I think actually that's not terrible. The only problem is we're playing catch-up football, so at the moment it feels like we have to win every game. At the moment, touch wood, as we were coming on, Amy, it looks like results are going our way, or some of the results are going our way. So tonight's a big opportunity. It's a tough game against a team that's chasing down automatic promotion. But it's a game which, for all of us associated with Cardiff City Football Club, it's a big one, and we need something tonight.
And as if automatic promotion isn't enough to play for, there's also the added incentive for them to do the double over us for the first time in over a century. We just don't want to give them that bragging right either, do we?
No, you don't want to be on the wrong side of history, Amy. And, I always wanted to be the first Welsh club to be in the Premier League. We weren't that. We are the only Welsh team to win the FA Cup. We were the first team to win a South Wales derby in the Premier League. So I take these small mercies. But no, look, Swansea have got the chance to make history tonight. And it would hurt because, rightly so, their fans would brag about it. We were talking before, Amy, off camera. We've had a few friends who are Swansea fans giving it a little bit big before this game tonight. So it means an awful lot. So, supporters, the city of Cardiff, need the team to do themselves justice tonight.
You talk about the supporters there. You've really got to feel for them in situations like this. It's bad enough not being able to come along to games in general, but I mean, everyone looks out for the derby games, for the Cardiff-Swansea game. There's a good social behind it as well. You got to feel for the supporters not being able to come along to it.
Absolutely. Well, we're supporters, and I want to be there. The only saving grace, I'm not going to say, and I don't think we will lose, but if we do lose, at least it's a shorter trip home from Cardiff City Stadium when you feel sick. But no, it's Derby days are all about the fans and the atmosphere in the stadium. It does give each side that extra 5%, so that the fans will be missed. In terms of getting that extra 5% tonight, Amy, I hope it's Cardiff, knowing that they lost the first derby and knowing that they could be on the wrong side of history. That'll just give them the edge to give everything they've got tonight and hopefully turn over what is a very talented Swansea side.
Now, Swansea have been playing very well at home this season. They think they're the only team. They've kept the most clean sheets, at home than any other team over in the championship. Sorry, can't get my words out. It's going to be tough. How do you see it playing out?
I think it's going to be cagey. I think Swansea will have a lot of the ball. They dominate the ball. They always do. But I think Cardiff are a different animal now under Mick McCarthy. I think their shape is better. They're more disciplined. So I think whilst we will concede possession to Swansea, I think we are dangerous on the counter-attack. You're going to run through the teams in a minute. It's interesting that Mick has made a slight change to perhaps make the midfield area a little bit more solid, but still with the likes of Harry Wilson and Kiefer Moore. I think the transition game, supported by the wing-backs, we carry more of a threat, Amy, than we did at Cardiff City Stadium in December. So I think it'll be cagey. I think Swansea will have a lot of the ball, but I think we can hurt Swansea on the break. So I'm going for Cardiff winning this by the odd goal in one.
Okay, John, before we talk more about the game itself later on, let's take a look at the teams for this evening's fixture. We'll start with the lineup for Cardiff City. In goals there we have Dylan Phillips. At left wing back there, Joe Ralls. three centre-halves there in Kieran Brown, Aidan Flint and Sean Morrison. At right wing-back, we have Tom Sang with two holding midfielders in Will Vaulks and Marlon Pack. In front of them there, we have Leandro Bacuna and Harry Wilson, and of course, Kiefer Moore up front for the Bluebirds. On the bench then, Alex Smithies, Sam Bowen, Ruben Colwell, Johnny Williams, Junior Hoylett, Shea Ojo, Josh Murphy, Mark Harris and Max Waters. John, if you want to talk us through the Swansea lineup. Yeah,
certainly. I think, by the way, the viewers might be seeing graphics on the screen, not done by us, but done by Sky, I believe. I'd be surprised if Cardiff City line up like that, and I'll be surprised if Swansea City line up as you might see on your screen in a moment. I've got Swansea City tonight. Certainly Freddie Woodman, who's a first-class goalkeeper in goal. A back three of Ryan Bennett, Mark Gay and Kyle Norton. Wing-backs, Jake Bidwell coming in, and Welsh international Connor Roberts on the other side. Matt Grimes and Jay Fulton in midfield. Jay Fulton was a very important player for Swansea at Cardiff City Stadium back in December. The impact loanee, Conor Hourahan, playing as a number 10 behind a front two of Morgan Whittaker and Andre Ayew. So interestingly for me, Amy, 4 changes from the game against Bournemouth, which Swansea lost in midweek. Only 2 changes from the last Derby game, their visit to Cardiff City Stadium. So I think Steve Cooper kind of liked what he did that day. So there's continuity from that game.
Right, that's it from us team-wise. Let's hear now from the gaffer, Mick McCarthy. He shared his thoughts earlier on in the week about Derby fixtures in general.
Everybody's derby is the big derby. Wherever you are, wherever you live, everybody has a derby game against somebody, and this is the big game for us. And I used to love him as a player, playing in the derby games, and I love him as the manager. It's somewhat different, of course, without the fans, but the result still matters, the performance still matters, and it still matters to the fans that, despite they can't be in the stadium, it's their important match. So I respect that, and we have to do our very best in it. I'm long enough in the tooth to understand what derbies mean to fans. You know, from being a player at Barnsley, when we played anybody in Yorkshire, whether it was Doncaster, Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, Leeds, they meant so much to us. We wanted to win that game. Manchester City, Manchester United, Celtic, Rangers, Lyon versus Saint Etienne, believe it or not, and Millwall versus anybody in London. So it was. I just respect derbies. I love them in terms of the competitive edge that the game gives you, and very often it's the ones that approach that with that competitive edge that can win the game. I try and motivate the players even in training that it's a ferocious derby. You play like you train like you play. Every day is a competition. You don't just turn up a one-off. Oh, this is a derby. We'll all try a bit harder today. No, you can't. You try as hard as you possibly can, and then in derby games, there's that little bit extra. Wherever it comes from, I've no idea. But it's just the rivalry and all this chat that we're having about it, and other people we're having about it, gives you that extra edge. But it should be done every day for me. That's how you train. And then you play like that. You know what? I don't think. Some teams probably do set out not to lose, and if you can be in a position in the league that can be the case. But I mean, both of us are in a position where it's really important that we win, and I haven't seen us set out yet. We haven't set out yet to try and avoid defeat. We might have done in a game when it's at certain stages in the game you think, right, don't look like we're going to win it. We're not going to get beaten in it. But this is not a game for that. If we can win, we'll be back on the coattails of the playoffs, and that's where we want to be. And of course for Swansea, they'll be looking at automatic promotion. So it's an important game for both of us if we can win it. Nobody ever says to me, my team lacked heart. I don't think anybody's said that about it. And they certainly won't be wanting on Saturday, that's for sure.
And that, of course, was Mick McCarthy. Now, we should be joined by Ashley James. There he is. Hi, Ash. Now, you've been part of many a South Wales derby in the past, be that in a working capacity or as a supporter yourself. How do you see tonight's fixture panning out, all bragging rights aside? I mean, there's a lot of pressure for both teams in this one.
Yeah, but left this stadium with my tail between my legs several times over the years, not least because of the proximity to where I grew up. As John was alluding to, the only good thing about that is it's quite a short hop back to my parents' house from this part of the world. But no, I mean, it makes the wins and the great moments all that sweeter. You think of the Bellamy goal, you think of other moments. There haven't been too many at this stadium over the years, I will say that. So I don't expect any different to what we've seen in recent games. I think it'll be a cagey old affair. Cardiff, our form's dropped off ever so slightly in recent weeks, but then you look at the value of those two clean sheets in recent games as well, and Swansea's results recently have been impressive. But you speak to colleagues who work in the industry, and they haven't been performing particularly well. So I do think this has all the makings for a very, very cagey affair.
Ash, you were mentioning there the fact that we haven't perhaps done well in recent history in this game. Not quite sure what it is. I was looking at the stats. Out of the last 20, Swansea are unbeaten in sort of 16 or got positive results in 16, won 10 of them. I don't know, is it inferiority complex? Do they up their game more? What has tended to give Swansea the edge in this encounter?
I don't know, and I think if you go back to how irritated the fan base and us as a club media were, and the players themselves with the game, the reverse fixture, I think that's a much bigger problem and a wider question that needs to be addressed. I think what you have to concentrate on today is making sure that it is better. And in order to do that, you've just got to make sure you start the game and, start the game well. And without sounding too much like Neil Harris, you can't concede that first goal, and you can't concede it early because we just didn't give ourselves an opportunity in that last game. We didn't set up well. We were timid from the start, and we conceded a sloppy early goal, and it never really gave us an opportunity. Look, it's a depleted team here today. We've got players playing out of position. We've lost 3 players now from that back five that was looking so consistent just a month ago. You can't start sloppily. You've just got to give yourself an opportunity to build into the game.
Ash, you mentioned a depleted team, but we are a different team, a different shape under Mick McCarthy, and one that is far better in transition. I think one of the things that frustrated you and I of that game back in December, just how isolated Kiefer Moore was, and just what a good job Jay Fulton did on him in that midfield area, shielding him. Jay Fulton's back in today, but your thoughts, probably Kiefer Moore shouldn't be as isolated today at the Liberty as he was back at the Cardiff City Stadium.
No, and I think the shape that Mick McCarthy's deployed will help that. I think the Bacuna instead of Murphy selection is interesting because it probably has one eye on trying to bolster the midfield. He'll make those runs in behind. We saw him score the goal not long ago at Cardiff City Stadium. So he is capable of making those runs in behind and stretching the defence, but he's not going to do it with the same regularity that Murphy would. So I think his better work is going to be done stretching out into the channels and trying to get down the outside of the 3 centre-halves, or dropping in and helping solidify that midfield area. And that allows still then Harry Wilson to operate as a natural number 10. And that will be so important because all Swansea did in the home game is just doubled up Kiefer Moore. They dropped Fulton in front of him. They got a defender touch tight behind him. So every long ball down the middle of the park, he was having to rise with 2 men. And, even Kiefer Moore isn't going to win a great deal up against that. So you need Harry Wilson to be in that position to try and detract Fulton, try and pull him away from Kiefer Moore. Otherwise, he will just operate in that shield again.
Certainly that first game at Cardiff City Stadium, we were a little bit of a soft touch, and nothing more emphasised that than the first goal, which we didn't defend very well. If memory serves, it was in the first 4 or 5 minutes, a ball to the back post. Certainly, again, the different shape and those 3 centre-halves, albeit with Kieran Brown in there, but you think of an Aidan Flint who, credit to him, has come back in and been outstanding in the last month, 6 weeks, and Sean Morrison as well. That tag of soft touch shouldn't apply tonight.
No, and it was the same the last time at this stadium, wasn't it? Cardiff uncharacteristically conceding a really sloppy goal from a set piece, which shouldn't happen either. So you're right. I think Swansea got down the outside of us far too easily in that reverse fixture, certainly in the early part of the game, which is where the goal came from. And having that back three, and you've spoken about on commentary with me, countless times in the last few weeks about how much more comfortable the back three look defending those zones. Obviously, there's a new player in there in Kieran Brown. It's a big opportunity for him this afternoon. I think, Mick McCarthy and Terry Connor would have obviously considered changing shape, I think, considering the injuries. But clearly what they've thought of is, what's the bigger risk? Is it changing shape, or is it playing Joe Rolls as a left wing back where he has filled in the past? And they've clearly thought that the former holds more risk.
Ash, final one from me before I hand back to Amy, and it's a bit of a silly one, but if we do win today, can you give me 40 minutes to get down to the Liberty Stadium so you and I can do a huddle in the centre circle?
Absolutely, I'd welcome it.
Now, Ash, obviously on the other side of tonight's game, we have the international break. I mean, it's been relentless recently, and fatigue was always going to ultimately end up playing a part. Two questions really from me. Firstly, is this a sort of game that we could have really done with coming on the other side of the international break? And secondly, how important is that break going to be in terms of recharging batteries now ahead of the final run-in?
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. I think you're right. I think both teams would have probably taken this off the back of the international break. Then again, I think fortunes of both these clubs are now intrinsically linked with the national team. So I think coming out of that international break could be determined by a great deal with what Wales do over the course of the next 10 days or so. And I take a fired up Will Vaulks, who you're going to hear from in a couple of minutes' time. I'll take a really fired up Will Vaulks in the middle of that park this afternoon all day long. I think the context of this afternoon is huge for two reasons. The context of the season is now massive. It's not that many weeks ago where we thought that this afternoon's game would be Cardiff seasons and it would be the defining game between now and May. That isn't the case anymore. Cardiff have gone on this run, and we were a little disappointed with the result in midweek and the result at Huddersfield. But you know what? Context of games elsewhere, you saw Reading drop points in midweek. You've seen teams drop points this afternoon, and Cardiff are back inching themselves closer to those playoff spots again. A win today will be massive. And then you've obviously, as you've already mentioned, Amy, you've got the historical context of Cardiff trying to prevent 112 years of history and preventing Swansea from being the first team to do the league double in a South Wales derby, which is obviously imperative.
Okay, thanks, Ash. That's all we've got time for. We'll let you set it for commentary. And Ash said he was in fact right. We will be hearing now from Will Vaulks, who spoke earlier this week about the importance of derby fixtures from a player's perspective.
There's no hiding away from the fact we know it's a massive derby game. And since I've been at the club, I've only played in one of them, which unfortunately was no fans in. That was obviously this season. And we've not done so well, all in all. So we want to win more than ever. And I think with having no fans in, it's a weird one because the fans aren't there to enjoy it. But I think in a weird way, it means actually more because they're not there. It's something to, have the bragging right about and be able to text people and post whatever they want online to say, that we won. So as opposed to celebrating in the stands like they would do normally. Derby games make everyone emotional, which is completely fair. Your football fans are completely entitled to that, to be emotional. That's why we all enjoy the game so much, because it gets you so high and so low. But no, I don't think we did do enough in the last game. I think the first goal we were disappointed with defensively. We kind of huffed and puffed, never really got into it. But that it does happen. It's not from lack of trying. We want to win the game just as much as everyone. But the last game, we were poor, and we'll be looking to try and rectify that tomorrow and definitely impose ourselves on the game a bit more than what we did. I think what our focus is on is our league position. We're trying, we know the derby game. I see players do interviews about derbies and try and pretend like it's not happening. We all know, you know what I mean? We're not daft. It's a big, massive game. So I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but we need the win. Not only to beat Swansea, but we need the win to get to where we want to be at the end of this year. We've got to start winning games again quick to give ourselves a chance at those playoffs, which is what I want, and I know the boys want and the manager wants. We've done well to get in this position, but the games are running out. We need to start winning football games. So if we do win tomorrow, which would be great, obviously we'll be happy to beat Swansea and not concede that record, but we'll be just as happy that we're 3 points higher than what we are at the moment. If you look at Barnsley, I think unbelievable what they're doing at the moment. So I hope they slow down a little bit. But I look at Barnsley with my previous club, similar size club to Rotherham, and to be in that position, it's unbelievable. There's not many leagues. The Premier League, I know Leicester had that one unbelievable year, but there's not many times that happens in the Championship. No disrespect to Wycombe, but I'm just going to use them because they're bottom of the league. But the Wycombe game that we got beat 2-1 in the end, but 2-0 last kick of the game, was one of the toughest games we had, as opposed to playing a top team where, Bournemouth, when we beat them 2-1, we played really well and it was more comfortable than Wycombe. There's not many leagues, I don't think, in the world that you would find two teams that are so far away from each other equally as difficult.
Top 5 in association with the Big Yellow Self-Storage Company.
Much like Swansea love to do, and they've hemmed Swansea right in to their half. They haven't allowed them out. They've kept up the pressure, and in the end, a goal has come. Down the Cardiff right, the Vaulks right, but he's the only player forward, and he needs support. He's trying to work his way infield. 3 defenders around him. Who's he going to give it to? He plays a good ball across field to Bellamy, and puts it infield to Ramsey. Bellamy gets it back, tries the shot. It's in! Bellamy has scored off the far post, and Cardiff City have taken the lead. 5 minutes to go. Craig Bellamy.
Might sound like a pretty long time, but if you're an idea, a dream, a belief, then 80 years is just the beginning.
Well, that's it from us here at Cardiff City Stadium. If you're currently watching with us on YouTube, don't forget to jump over to Cardiff City TV, where you can listen with live commentary. Otherwise, it's available to watch for selected viewers in selected countries. Thanks, John, for joining me this evening.
Thanks as ever, Amy.
And thanks, as always, for watching. We'll hand over to the capable hands of Ashley James and Mark Denham, who are at the Liberty Stadium.
Good evening, welcome to Cardiff City TV.
Wilson, a little bit of space for Harry Wilson. Strikes a goal! Oh, what a goal! Morrison, goal!
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Liberty Stadium for this South Wales derby. If you're watching on Cardiff City TV today, thank you for taking that option and being with us for a fixture that is, well, whatever season these two teams from the same division, Ash, this is the one that everyone looks for, isn't it? These two games didn't go well earlier in the season, but fingers crossed for better today.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive, isn't it, Mark? Good evening, everyone. We said on pre-match, that it wasn't too long ago where actually we were looking at this fixture as being our season, the defining game left in our season. And suddenly, this incredible run that we've been on has given everyone larger hope than that. So that, we're talking about it being a massive game on two contexts now. One, to stop Swansea being the first team to do a South Wales derby in the 112-year history of the fixture, and then also the fact that some of these somewhat frustrating results that we've picked up recently at Huddersfield and Stoke, against Huddersfield and Stoke, that Mick McCarthy's now been proved right, that if you can't win the game, don't lose it, because in the context of Reading losing in midweek and now a slew of teams losing this afternoon, we were potentially looking at coming out of this fixture with a loss and results elsewhere of being 12 points off the playoffs going into an international break. It could be as good as 4.
As you can see, City are in the tunnel, ready to come out for this one. Young Tom sang there, what a massive game it is for him. He's done well when he's been in the side, but I doubt he expected to be first choice right wing back in a South Wales derby this season, did he?
No, he probably didn't, but I'm just delighted with the opportunities that Mick McCarthy's giving these players, but also, and we've spoken about it, on commentary in recent weeks, the fact that a lot of Cardiff fans weren't happy with the appointment of Mick McCarthy, and they kept pointing to that they wanted the club to have a philosophy and a system in place. Well, we've got a system in place now. We're playing to a system, and we've got to the point that a lot of younger managers and more attractive younger managers and clubs get to, which is, look, you need to have an ability that you can plug in a player into a position and be comfortable that they can play and understand that position if you get injuries, if you get suspension. And this is exactly what we're seeing in this Cardiff 11 at the moment.
Yeah, well, young Sam Bowen on the bench today. Jason Perry speaking about him in midweek. Said keep an eye on him. He's watched a few 23s games. You know what it's like. If Jay says something to us, take notice of it. Basically, someone with his experience and knowledge of the game. He said about Sam Bowen, Jason's son, of course. He said he has got something, and again, wouldn't have expected to be amongst the substitutes today, but good luck to him and indeed all of the Bluebirds out there. That's the Swansea team. Morgan Whittaker probably the key inclusion there, the youngster up front.
Yeah, 4 changes from the last game, but crucially only 2 from the reverse fixture back in December. You'll notice Jamal Lowe sat on the bench, isn't in good form at the moment, so young Morgan Whittaker gets his opportunity, as the fans have been clamouring for. Hourahan's been magnificent since arriving on loan. You'd expect that. He was a quality operator whenever he played in the Championship before, but clearly he liked his shape that he went with in December, and he's gone with that again today.
That's the Bluebirds lineup, and changes at the back, of course, out of necessity. Curtis Nelson out for a couple of weeks.
It's not going
to be that. It's going to be Joe Rolls left wing back.
It's going to be Joe Rolls at left wing back by the look of it. I think, and we spoke this pre-match, look, what's the biggest gamble? Is it playing Joe Rolls as a left wing back, or is it changing shape from what you've looked good in for the last 2 months? And I think that would have been the conundrum facing Mick McCarthy and Terry Connor, and he's gone with the latter being the bigger risk in terms of changing shape. So we think Rolls is going to slot in. If it's not going well, that could quite easily become a 4-4-1-1, and you just play Bacuna and Rolls wide in the midfield areas and sit them as extra layer of protection in front of Brown and Sang as make-way fullbacks if needed.
He won't let anyone down at left wing back, Joe Rolls, say that's for sure. If that is as we anticipate where he'll be, he'll do a job on that man, Connor Roberts. He's been spoken up a lot